Welcome, friends. I hope you are having a really great day or evening whenever you're watching this video. And we're going to jump right into some of the reasons why it's hard to reach, into your environment to get your food needs met. And again, we can fill in the blank with not just food needs, but maybe needs, wants, or desires for movement or less movement, for more rest, maybe for a different circumstance in life. But we're going to just keep it with the food and kind of health kind of realm for today in this video. But let's talk a little bit about needs real quick, because that's the basis for coming to terms with being a human who has needs is a really important part of recovery, because a lot of times what we'll do to cope with the lack of getting needs met, regardless of how far back that happened for you, is we will create these defensive strategies, which eventually become neural pathways, and it just becomes how you live. And as a kid, it makes sense. It helps you if you keep telling yourself, well, it's my fault that I got bullied for my body, or if you keep let's say you get bullied, whether it's by parents, another family member, peers, let's just say that happened to you. And when we're young and cognitively our ability we're not able to look at the big picture. So let's say we have a need, we have needs to have belonging, right? And if those needs aren't getting met and it's coming from the environment that's really supposed to provide some of that, and you don't get that need met, your brain wants to make meaning of that. Well, is either their fault or my fault. And especially if there's a need and that's not really getting met by someone who's, ideally supposed to do that, you tend to personalize it like it's my fault that it didn't get met, versus I think this environment isn't capable of meeting these needs appropriately. I couldn't think that way at 5 or 10 and 15 and even 20. And so maybe you haven't been able to either. And I say that because we can't when we're young. We don't have that cognitive ability yet. Probably till later teens, early 20s at the earliest. So let's say you have a need for maybe some feeling like you deserve to exist, right? With how you are. And if you can't necessarily change naturally how your body is, now you're in a conflict. And the conflicts create these coping strategies and barriers, all right? So what does that have to do with food? Is that you might know good and well that you might know. Some people didn't know, some people don't know. Let's say you know that you need to be eating more at a given meal, or let's say you know that you're pushing off meals too far and it's creating deprivation-driven eating later. And let's say you know that you want to eat XYZ, but you won't let yourself. And then when you simply ask the question, well, what would it mean if I ate this? You will bump right into that conflict. They got created 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, because there's an intolerable belief there. And it's based on here's a need, but to be able to be okay in that environment, you kind of have to go against some need you have and either do something or believe something about yourself to get away, from honestly the pain of that, not being able to be met. So it makes it really tricky then to feel like it's safe to reach into the environment and get your needs met, because it feels like if I reach there, I'm going to have to feel that intolerable conflict of what happened or what made me believe. And that's really, really painful. All right. So we can put that with movement. We can put that with health. So what would it mean if that helps us kind of figure out oh, there's some part of me that really believes that if I eat more food, and if you start doing what would it mean, each time you start to find oh, this is not about fiber. This is not about sugar or fat. This is about not belonging. How long ago did that start? So you really start to see where these food beliefs that feel so intolerable to change, what they're really rooted in. And then you can speak some truth into that. And then also work with the body sensations. But the thing is, to be able to do this, you have to have some level of, you have to have some safety. Your environment around you can't be, it's really hard to do this work when you're in a lot of chaos or a lot of upheaval, to be honest. So we need some safety. We need to have some trust, with the environment and with ourselves a bit. And, again, we can only go as fast as the slowest parts can go. So you might have these really sticky, like, I know cognitively, I know right now my adult self knows that, like, if I eat this food, nothing bad's going to happen. But then you go to do it, and maybe you can do it once or twice, but it doesn't stay. Or maybe you do it, but you have to make deals with yourself to do it, like restrict later. Or maybe... there's a whole host of things that can happen to kind of try to get around dealing with that internal conflict. But eventually, to be able to, like, live in congruence with your values, it's like you have to look at, like, the intolerable root beliefs and be able to get truth to that. But in the meantime, what can you do as you're, like, working your way to readiness around that is, again, if your body... as in too much activation, you have to orient towards the good. Like, the more ick we can get out, great, of your life, but also, like, what good can I bring in? How do I know inside that, like, if I eat this, or I take the time to settle before meals, and get now time, the more times you practice that and you see that, like, that, the emotions and the sensations really aren't the threat. It's, I think that inside of us know, like, as we get closer and closer to these, these conflicts, a lot of feelings get stirred up. And that doesn't mean that something bad is happening. It just means, like, oh, something hard happened. And do I have what I need? Do I have the resources to look at that without feeling overwhelmed, basically? That's what we're shooting for and hoping for. So it's really important that you're using your sensory tools, that you're doing this work with safe others if possible, and being really kind and patient with yourself. So to be able to reach into your environment to get your needs met, you have to be able to slow down enough to recognize, like, oh, I'm running or numbing because even slowing down to look at this feels like a threat. So that's step one. You got to look at that. The other part of it is, like, what do I really need and want? It's important to, like, well, what do you want? What kind of food do you want to eat? What do you want? How do you want your day to be scheduled to get your food needs met? A lot of people want recovery, but if I were to look at their calendar, I don't really see how you're set up for success for that if you spend your time too busy. Or if we're not getting a lot of, kind of doing some self-education to learn, well, what does it take to get to where I want to go, and who has been where I want to go, and, what do they do to maybe get there? Now, everybody's journey is different, but there's some commonalities that are possible. But, and remember, it's not about, like, pushing yourself past, what you can tolerate. It's more about recognizing, oh, I do a lot of running. I do feel really scared to be vulnerable. So start there and grow your capacity to be able to slow down more and more and more. And then, start to notice, like, oh, I know what I want, but I won't reach for it because I feel like that means about me. So if I were to eat this food, that's what that means about me. And, well, is that true? And then the last part of it's going to be, of course, which we've talked about in other videos. Can you take in that care? Can you accept the insight that you've learned? Or do you kind of like, oh, no, I can't, that can't be true. Or, what would it mean if for you to be fully recovered, you're at a weight that maybe you could never thought you could be okay with, but maybe it's true. And what would that mean? And that's the reason why people go up and down so much. Not a little ups and downs are normal, but big ones, that has a whole lot more to do with internal conflict. And not feeling safe, and more of that needing to be built inside than it does, like, people don't know what they need to do to be recovered. So it's really important that you take the time, building safety, getting educated about like, well, why do I run and how come I dissociate and how come I won't let myself, I know nutrition facts. And if you don't, get some education about how things really work from a biochemistry perspective versus, I don't know how else to word this, but like, social media, nutrition education. I'm not saying everything's wrong, but I think it's really important to understand the basics of how food works so that when you see stuff, you can look up more information and question things and what's right for you, all that. So anyway, that's what the reach is about. Is it safe to reach into the environment and get your needs met? If you're afraid to reach, I oftentimes be curious, like, oh, what would happen if you reached for another piece of toast? And when you feel the fear about that, you're on the right track of like, it means something. It's not about like how much food your body may or may not need. It's about what it means about you if you were to actually get your needs met. And if you won't even reach it all, that tells me like needs aren't safe. I had to work through all these things. So I mean, I understand like how odd it feels to like, wait, I'm a human being. Of course I have needs, but something in me is like, oh, needs are a threat. If I reach into the environment, there's nothing going to be there. Or if I reach, I'm going to get hurt, criticized, whatever. And so you see how much the brain will say like, oh, well, you can't reach because like too much sugar, too much fat, I'll gain weight, no one loves me. I mean, that last one, there's some stuff in there for people that they have felt that way for sure and maybe still feel that way. But for some of us, that's true. And it's also, some of these beliefs really are just like the red herrings, honestly, to some deeper stuff that need to be looked at. So if you're having trouble reaching, you know what your needs are, but you're having trouble reaching for them, then that's something to be really, really curious about. If you need help with that, please let us know. I'll put the link down below to chat with us if you want to about this. And if you have any other questions about this topic, please feel free to ask below. Take care, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye for now.